Welcome back to another Comprehensive Counseling Initiative monthly video update. I'm Matt Fleck, and this time we're with Melissa Rekeweg, who is the Senior Director of Talent at AgriNovus Indiana. Welcome, Melissa, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you for asking me to join you today. Really excited to share what we do at AgriNovus Indiana and answer any questions you might have about it.
Fantastic. I've got a lot of questions. So first, start out by telling us what AgriNovus Indiana is and what your focus and your mission is there.
Very good. So AgriNovus Indiana is the initiative within the state that focuses on ag bioscience. We sort of coined that phrase, and you might see it as ag plus bio plus sci. Sometimes we add tech on the end. And what that is where food, agriculture, science, and technology converge. So if you think of the agriculture industry, it's a large industry. Ag bioscience is a sector within that industry, and these are really high-tech sectors, high-tech work, and also a lot of science-based areas. Some examples might be plant science, animal health and nutrition, human food and nutrition, and high-tech agriculture. So that's the area that we focus on. It's about a $16 billion industry in the state, and AgriNovus Indiana is part of the Central Indiana Corporate Partnership, CICP. So if you look at the different areas that AgriNovus works on, really there's four main areas. We work on amplifying the message. A lot of people don't know about this sector, don't know about the opportunities, and really what a strong sector it is in Indiana. So work on that story. We have a podcast. We try to be in places where people wouldn't expect us. There's a very large display at the Indianapolis airport to get people thinking as soon as they arrive in Indiana that this is the location for ag bioscience. Another area is we connect people and organizations. And sometimes people and organizations that don't know they should be connected. And we do that through different networking events. And also we have an annual conference called the Summit, usually in November, that has over 500 people attend. We pull in from other states. And it's not just the ag bioscience sector. We have a lot in the tech sector. And what I find really cool about that event is you can have a CEO sitting right next to a high school student, a researcher, entrepreneurs. It's a very diverse crowd, and what they do is they're there to learn about what's happening in this ag bioscience sector. So
very interesting.
Yeah, that's connecting people and organizations. We work with entrepreneurs, try to get them started. One topic that we're starting that this audience might be interested in is we're working on youth entrepreneurship within ag bioscience. That is just starting, trying to connect with organizations that maybe already have programs out there in youth entrepreneurship, but trying to add that twist of how do we get the students thinking about ag bioscience, about solutions to our food and nutrition, solutions to safety, and how to continue to bring technology into that space. And then lastly is talent. So that's my area, and we focus on really building that ag bioscience talent pipeline. So those are a lot of different things. And the surprising fact is we've only been around since 2013. Most of these activities have really ramped up. Starting 2017, we were very fortunate to get Lilly Endowment funding, and that's really enabled us to start many of these programs.
Yeah. So the Lilly Endowment, speaking of that, has been concentrating on this counseling initiative, which focuses on not only academic achievement, but improving the student social emotional health and student college and career readiness. I'm sure that AgriNovus and possibly the youth into entrepreneurship component really touches on at least one or more of those components. How do you align with those initiatives?
Well, I think where we probably align the best is the college and career readiness. Most of the areas that we focus on, whether it's the entrepreneurship or it's the talent area, we're working on trying to figure out what's the best way to connect with students, what's the best way to let them know what is out in the sector as far as careers. One thing that we're launching in August, we've been working on it for quite a while, is called Field Atlas. It's a website that really focuses on what those careers are in ag bioscience and what companies are out there in Indiana. A lot of students don't realize the diverse number of companies in Indiana where they could find a job. They often think they have to leave the state. That is not correct. So we're trying to let them know that. And we've had great luck with finding individuals in all these different roles and doing videos with them so they can speak directly to those students through the website about what they found rewarding in their career. One thing that's of interest to us is there's really two different areas that we find in ag bioscience. We have our core rules, which might be individuals who have really high-skilled science area, or maybe they have a specific knowledge in agriculture that makes them valuable. And then we also have allied careers. The allied is where we really need to do a better job of attracting students. So those would be IT, engineering, technology, just overall, and like your business disciplines. Those companies need those individuals just as much as they need the others, but those students don't seem to know about the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. So how does AgriNovus, and maybe you're not necessarily currently working directly with some schools, but how do you collaborate with schools? I know most of your efforts probably with schools are probably focused at the high school level, but are there ways that elementary, middle, and high schools can collaborate with AgriNovus, either directly or indirectly?
Yeah, right now we're focused on college and high school, mainly because we just don't have the bandwidth to go further down than that. We have tried to help a little bit with JA Job Sparks. I know that's more the middle school level, so trying to get involved in that. We're in the very beginning stages of supporting them and helping give some content knowledge for the agriculture area there. But I think the big thing as far as with schools, and we have had great success with some of the schools, is Westfield is a great example of a school that we've been able to collaborate with. And we're looking for other schools that we can build that relationship with. So I think their guidance counselor helped serve on the committee that actually was the steering committee to develop Field Atlas. And we found it really critical to make sure we had that knowledge base involved. When we were doing the youth entrepreneurship area, we reached out to a few of their business teachers to ask about what that program looked like and how we could best serve. And then that summit that I mentioned that we have in November, their principal, Stacy Hughes, was actually on one of our panels when we talked about talent and education. So that's a school that we have a great relationship with, and we're trying to build other relationships like that. I think most people think of ag bioscience or the greater industry of agriculture, and they think we would be only working with schools that have agriculture programs.
Yeah.
Actually, we want the opposite. We're definitely going to work with those schools. I think that's a great connection, but we want to focus on those schools and those students that don't see the opportunity yet. And once we have those conversations and talk about the sector that we're representing, they get really excited because it's a great opportunity for students. Most of the careers that we represent are 4-year degrees or further. So we're really looking for students that have those strong science or technology skills and can contribute to the sector.
Yeah, very interesting. So schools a lot of times don't know how to interact, or maybe the best way to interact with organizations such as yours. Do you have any advice, especially when there's limited time in schools? And I know you've worked in schools and worked with schools for a number of years. Any suggestions on how to best reach out and maybe work with AgriNovus and other organizations that are wanting to work with schools?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is don't be afraid to reach out, and possibly reach out multiple times. And teachers and administrators would know this. There are specific times within a school environment that they don't have time for anything else. Maybe testing's going on. Maybe it's the beginning of the school season. So there's times when it's really difficult. Well, organizations and companies have those exact same times where they don't have time to reach out and start new things. So I would say be persistent and ask multiple times, and also build that relationship. Some schools have multiple different committees. Maybe their career and technical areas have advisory committees. Make sure those businesses or those organizations that you want to start connecting with, you're inviting them to serve on those advisory committees so they can start learning about what your school has to offer. The more they can learn about what the school has to offer, what those needs are, the more they're going to be able to come up with some innovative ideas, maybe have suggestions that the school didn't think of before.
Yeah.
And also, the more you can tie in the community, the more supportive they're going to be of the programs.
Yeah. Just real quickly, sustainability is always an issue with any kind of new programs. It's sustainability for your programs and for schools the same way. And maybe you've already touched on this completely, but how do schools and organizations forge those collaborations that help to sustain the good work that is going on? I know you want to expand what you have, but also sustaining what you've already created is a challenge too, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I mean, we focus on that every day with our programs, especially when you have grant funds. You want to develop a program that's not only going to serve today, but serve from 5 years from now. And how do you do that? And schools have the same issue. So really, we look at, how do we plan not just for the term that we have the grant, but what do those years following that look like? Where would that funding come from? We start trying to find additional funding while we still have the grant dollars, so that we can show that we've already actively made that reach. We're building those relationships. A lot of times it can take two or 3 years to get a grant in place or to get that relationship built where you might have funding. So really starting early and looking long term. And the other thing that I would challenge schools to do, I know it's difficult, but a lot of schools focus on what is the problem today, because that needs fixed, whatever that problem is that they're looking at. But what do they anticipate it to be in 5 years, in 10 years, and how do they start getting that in place early? It goes back to time and resources, but I think that lack of time and strain on resources, they often focus on what is right in front of them, but maybe have a task force that tries to plan what's coming down the road so they can be more prepared and maybe find those strategic partnerships that can help with that.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty important when they look at long term. But the biggest thing is just engage the community, engage other organizations like ourselves, and do it in the very beginning of a program. Nobody really likes to be brought in just when it's time to supply funding or finish it up, but you want them to find that ownership, that they're part of it, especially if it's community organizations. They want to feel like they have that ownership, and what they're doing is making a lasting impact on the community.
Yeah. And so many communities in Indiana, especially, are agriculture or agribioscience centric and focused. So involving you or AgriNovus in those discussions early on, as you say, is just such an important feature. I think it's good to know from your perspective that schools can just sort of reach out to AgriNovus and say, join us in these conversations, without saying we know what the answers are. We want you to just be part of those conversations right at the very start.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to know it doesn't have to be at the administration level. This goes both ways for businesses and schools. A lot of times maybe a business has an idea for a school, and they would start at the administration level or even the guidance counselor. Yes, that's the leadership level, but they may not know the day-to-day content that's occurring in classes. So if a business has a specific area of interest, they go directly to that teacher or that department to share that with them, because they might be able to make a better connection. And the same for the teachers. If they have, if they're developing students or a skill that they see benefits a company or a business in their community, don't feel like they can not go directly to that company or business, because there's going to be better collaboration when they're speaking the same language. Yeah,
very good. And I like the idea that it doesn't have to be necessarily just an administrator, a counselor could do this, but also it doesn't have to be just within the career tech ed area, because your interests go across all educational levels and all kinds of experiences for students. So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So Melissa, if someone wants to reach out to you, if a school is interested in connecting with AgriNovus, what's the best way to do that?
The best way is probably through our website. There's a Connect with Us option, and that's AgriNovus Indiana. So it's a www.agrinovusindiana.com. And I'll reach out once I get that information, and we can start a dialogue and a conversation and see what next steps could be.
It's wonderful. And I know, Melissa, you'll follow through because we've worked together for a number of years, so you're good at that especially. Melissa,
yeah, well,
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're excited to build these relationships with schools. And like I said, we have great relationships now with many, especially those that have agriculture programs, but it's really letting the students that don't have that opportunity and don't know it's available learn about it, how they can contribute to the ag bioscience space, and they just don't know it.
That's right. That's the exciting part of it. It's the discovery that students can say, I can connect to this career area and find new areas or new ways to connect for me as a student and growing into an adult too. So very exciting. Melissa, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. We'll put up some contact information for AgriNovus Indiana, and hopefully we'll get some more schools that'll be connecting with you and your organization. And again, thanks for your time.
All right. Thank you, Matt.